Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Today, we are continuing what we began this week. First of all, let's start off by giving charity. Charity. Charity saves from death. Charity brings the Moshiach. Charity, simply meaning going out from yourself. There's a lot of discussion nowadays. Why is it our generation is so lacking meaning and so lacking genuineness, and people are so miserable and angry at each other, and etc. And Professor Viktor Frankl, he was a big professor, and he was the Lubavitcher Rebbe said that he was the only psychiatrist that got it right. And he said that the problem with the world is that everybody is selfish. Everybody is, and they're taught to be more selfish. And if you just think about it, the whole entire woke movement is just being selfish, and all the religions in the world are being selfish. Basically, I mean, what's in it for me, which is a very natural feeling. And the solution is, everyone's looking for a solution. Right? Some thought that the solution is that you have to just express your selfishness, and you have to, don't be afraid to be angry into this. And communism came along and said, we're going to negate selfishness. There's not going to be any more self. It's going to be everyone's going to be common. But that doesn't work. It doesn't work because the whole thing is just talking about all these solutions are just exacerbating, increasing the problem. Now, what's the problem? The answer is charity. That's the answer. The answer is charity. The answer is seeing what needs to be done in the world, what you can give, and to give it. That's the answer to the world's problems. Right? the people say some people should be rich and some people should be poor in order that there should be charity, that the rich can give to the poor. Of course, this is an eternal decision that everybody has to make. And people also have to have something to give. So that's what Mashiach is going to do. Mashiach is going to convince everyone that they have what to give, everyone in their own way, even if it's just a proper good thought about other people. Okay, so the Jews, in order to go out of Egypt, so what did they have to do? They had to stop being selfish. And there were basically two steps to doing this. One of the steps of doing it is turning from bad. And the other one is getting help from God to do good. In order to not be selfish in this world, in order to not be selfish, there has to be something more real that we can devote ourselves to instead of ourselves. So the religions come along, all the other religions in the world, and they say, well, devote yourself to going to heaven instead of just being on the earth. But that's also selfish. So it ends up you're never really happy. Can't be happy because you're always concerned with yourself. And that's a lie because there's so much more to life than ourselves. And just going to heaven, heaven doesn't really, it just makes your selfishness a little bit more spiritual or big or something. So ideally, that's the idea why God gave the Torah. It took the Jews out of Egypt and gave them the Torah. First of all, he took them out of Egypt. That's turning away from bad, stopping the bad, and then giving the Torah. That's getting help from God to do good, to know what good is. Okay, but in order to do this, there had to be a preface. And the preface was two types of matzah the Jewish people ate. They ate matzah before they left Egypt, and they ate matzah after they left Egypt. Or more exactly, they ate matzah before God revealed himself at midnight and smote the firstborn. And they ate matzah after midnight, after God revealed himself and smote the firstborn. They also ate matzah. And it says that when we eat matzah now, it's because of the second reason. That's what they say. That's the name of this mimer. When we eat matzah on Passover night, and the holiday is called the holiday of matzot. That's one of the names of it. Chag HaMatzot, the holiday of matzot. When we eat matzot on the night of Passover, so we point to the matzah. There's another commandment on that night. One commandment is to eat matzah. Another commandment is to relate the story of going out of Egypt. It's a commandment from the Torah. And that story has already been, how do you say, arranged in a book. What do they call it? There's a book name for it. Canonized, is that a word for it? Anyway, it's written in a book. It's called the Haggadah of Passover. You can download it. You can, and one of the parts is you point to the matzah and you say, Matza zu, this matzah that we're eating. Why? Because God revealed himself to the Jewish people, and the dough that they had could not rise up. It couldn't rise up. But in fact, that's not the reason we're eating matzah. In fact, that's wrong. It seems that there's a big mistake over here. The matzah that we eat is because God commanded us to. And when would God command us to? That was before midnight, before he revealed himself. We had to eat the matzah in order that God should reveal himself. So why is it that we say this is the matzah after midnight? So it says, now we can ask the question we said before, how can we say on the matzah zu, on this matzah that we eat? This that we eat, that we're eating before midnight. By the way, when you make your Passover night, you're supposed to try to eat the matzah before midnight. The matzah, this is because of the matzah that could not, the dough that could not rise up after midnight. How? Okay, now again, it's a mitzvah, it's a commandment to eat matzah, but what we're doing is just the inverted tip of an iceberg. In other words, we do a little tiny thing here, but it activates tremendous results spiritually, which we don't see them because they're spiritual, but we have to believe that that's what's happening. And it did happen when the Jews left Egypt. It happened in a big way. The Jews ate matzah, and God revealed himself and smote the firstborn because they ate matzah. Because the Jewish people ate matzah. That's what the point of this mimer is. Because the Jewish people ate matzah, therefore that's what aroused God to reveal himself. We, so to speak, we affected God. We caused God to react. In the language of the Zohar, it's called an arousal from below brings an arousal from above. Et ruta de la tata, et ruta de la ela. So we ate matzah, we did this thing, this physical thing, and because it was exactly what God wanted, and because there's also big mystical content of the matzah, but the main thing is we did what God wanted. If God would have said, eat, potatoes dipped in vinegar with that, would have done the same thing. Would have done the same thing. But the fact is, he didn't say that. He said we should eat matzah, and the whole thing of matzah is that it's humble, just water and flour, and it doesn't rise up. He said, eat that before midnight, and I'm going to react. You won't believe it. And it happened. They ate matzah, and suddenly the essence of God revealed himself. It said, not by means of an angel, not by means of a soraf or a malach or a shliach. God himself revealed. So it ended up that what we did in this world, this seemingly meaningless act of eating. I mean, people eat all the time. There's how many people, billions of people in the world, they eat. Everybody eats. What's so special about eating? Here's a special thing about eating. We ate exactly what God said, and it was bread. Bread has a special effect, etc. And it made a revelation of God. That was before midnight. But after midnight, there was no commandment to eat matzah, but we had no choice. We could not eat chometz. Why? Because God revealed himself at midnight. And because he revealed himself at midnight, there could not be any egotism in the world. Even the bread didn't rise up. It shows you that the main thing of the bread was the intent, because it physically couldn't rise up. Just because God revealed himself. Okay, so it says, why is it that we say the matzah that we eat now is because God revealed himself? The matzah we eat now is before midnight, commemorating the matzah they ate before there was a revelation. And here we're saying, no, the reason we're eating it is because God revealed himself. That's the matzah after. It says, when we say that the matzah we're eating now is because of God revealed himself, that's the second level of matzah. That it wasn't only after God revealed himself, namely after midnight. But the answer is like this. He calls all this that we said that there's a difference between the first matzah, that's just our doing our work from below, but total faith in God. That's the first matzah, and that causes the revelation, which makes matzah impossible. That there's a difference between these two matzahs. That's only when the Jewish people were then in Egypt. Why? Because what's the difference between then and now? They didn't have the Torah. And in the Torah were commandments. Okay, so here's a very, very important thing that we have to remember, and the Rebbe wants us to remember this constantly. The Torah and the commandments are not just religious rituals and a religious book and a religious rituals that were written in order to make a new religion, a new identity, and we'd have all these rules and we'd have all these things. And if you really do them right, then you go into heaven. Right? This is a tourist's guide to get into heaven. That's not the Torah, not the Jewish Torah. And the God that we believe in is not the same God that everybody else believes in. At least it isn't got not the same aspect of that. The Torah is the will and the wisdom of the creator of the universe. And the God that we believe in, that's the creator of the universe. He not only creates everything, he creates the spiritual, but he cares about every detail in the physical world, the essence of God. And that's the whole thing of the Jewish people leaving Egypt. And that's the whole thing of the commandments. So everything in the world is part of the world, but the commandments are part of the creator. They're the will and the wisdom of the creator. And that we got at Mount Sinai. When God revealed himself at Mount Sinai, he revealed the true purpose of the world. When we got the Torah and the commandments, God made us realize why we are here and how important this world is. And if we use this world properly, then God will show us amazing miracles every instant of our life. We'll see that everything is a miracle. Every blade of grass, every atom, every human being, every animal, it's a big miracles. That was all begun at Mount Sinai. Alkein, therefore, lo yabicholtam, because they ate matzah, the matzah that they ate was before God gave the Torah. It was not in their ability to receive these big revelations, what we said, Mora Gadol, etc. So they had to eat the matzah in order to bring these revelations about. That they couldn't really truly be surrendered to God, etc. Elakoda and chatzot, only before midnight, it was only just the matzah chaser vav. It says in the evening tochal matzot. If you look in the Torah, the word matzot is written without a vav. That's called chaser. There's a lot of words. I'm sorry. A lot of the times that the letters yud or the letter vav can be missing from a word, and it's supposed to be missing. Like in a mezuzah, you know what a mezuzah is? You have a little mezuzah. So sometimes the word mezuzot is written with that vav, and sometimes written without a vav, and it's pronounced exactly the same. And the same thing as the letter yud. The letter yud sometimes is written in letters, in words, and sometimes it's not, and it means the same thing. It's pronounced the same way exactly. So here's matzot. When matzot is written in the Torah, missing a vav, it says that in the evening you have to eat matzot. It's written without a vav. This is hinting at the matzah that the Jewish people ate back then, 3,300 whatever years ago. That's what's called the lower fear of God. Batul ratzoncha. Lower fear, this lower fear and upper fear of God. Lower fear of God means lower fear of God means that you realize that God is bigger than me, he's stronger than me, he's smarter than me, that God is probably right and I'm probably not. and therefore you're afraid of punishment, or you're afraid of doing the wrong thing. That's called the lower fear. The lower fear of God means that I definitely want to go against God. I want to do whatever I want to, but I'm afraid that I'm wrong. I'm afraid that I'm wrong. I'm afraid that's not the first time I've been wrong, and I'm afraid that I'm wrong. You can't trust yourself. That's what's called the lower fear. Something that's called the fear of punishment. The upper fear of God is what's called total surrender to God. Total surrender. Maybe you can compare it to, let's say, a person who's a beginning driver. So he has to, let's say a person moves from America to England. Now, England, they drive on the left side of the road. In America, they drive on the right side of the road. So when you get in the car, you first of all, your first couple of days in England, you have to just control yourself. You have to control yourself. Don't drive on the right side of the road. That's called the lower fear. The lower fear. You want to do something, but you control yourself to do what's right. And after you're there for a while, let's say a year or something, then it's automatic. Right? In America, it's automatic that people drive on the right side of the street. Americans, and the left, in England, the English, and automatic. That's something like the upper fear. You automatically do what's right. You're automatically attached to what's right. Why is it called fear? Because you totally give up your own desires to do what you want. You automatically do what's right. You automatically stop doing what's wrong. That's called the lower fear of God. That's called the upper fear of God. You're totally surrendered. You totally negate your. That's after midnight, but that was only back then. There's a big difference. Al Yetezeh, by means of this, they were able to receive this revelation of God that we said before, after midnight, by eating the matzah before midnight, as that was the arousal from below, what's called the lower fear. That was the arousal from below that brought about this upper fear, total surrender to God. Al Yetezeh, by means of this, is drawn down to them. Lo speak, but sekas. Therefore, there was impossible for the dough to rise up. That was all before the Torah was given. But after the Jewish people received the Torah, and God already opened up the doors to His essence, to this world in the Torah and the commandments. He gave us that. Therefore, when God gave it on Mount Sinai, Hari B'Kol Hashanah, every year, now every year, even before Passover, even before midnight, we can draw down the whole year. Even before Passover, we're doing with the commandments the essence of God by means of Torah and the commandments. Now, this is a very basic thing, which is totally makes no sense. I'm sorry to say, but it doesn't make any sense. But it's true. That's the truth of Judaism. What's the truth of Judaism? I know I've said this 1,000 times already, but I'll say it another 1,000 times. The truth of Judaism is that this world, this physical world, is tremendously, tremendously important to God. And God wants to be revealed here more than in the upper heavens, the highest of highest levels of heavens. God wants to be revealed here. So to speak, the whole world will be like the Holy of Holies. The essence of God, and the Holy of Holies was the same revelation as on Mount Sinai. What was in the Holy of Holies? The tablets from Mount Sinai. So that's all in this physical world. The problem is we don't see it, we don't feel it. And the Alter Rebbe, the first Rebbe of Chabad, says in the Tanya that it's a good thing we don't see it, because if we did, we would just totally, how do they say, freak out. Would just be totally overwhelmed with the fact, with how far away we are from the truth. They say that the Ramban, Rabbi Moses ben Nachman, he lived about, 800 years ago, something like that? 800, 700 years ago. When he would put on tefillin, people had to hold him up because the experience was so great. He really felt that godliness was really being revealed with the commandments. Well, that's a fact with every one of us. We just don't feel it. Okay, therefore, nowadays, when we eat matzah, it's just like all the other commandments of the year that we do. It's after the Torah was given 3,000 years ago. When we do a commandment, we actually make God revealed in this world. It's just that the revelation is so unusual and so unlike anything we can possibly imagine that we can't appreciate it. We don't appreciate it. But nevertheless, it happens, and that's what the Rebbe is trying to tell us, that when that is in the mitzvah that we eat before midnight, so we have that revelation by means of the Torah and the commandments, which are previous to the whole entire year. So in other words, this year when we eat matzah, we have, first of all, the revelation of the matzah after the Torah was given, and we also have all of the commandments we did the whole year are also elevating the Torah that we elevating the matzah that we eat tonight. Okay, if so, then what's the difference between before midnight and after that? We'll see. Therefore, it says, nowadays we can also receive the same revelation of the Shekhinah that was revealed to us, the King of the Kings of the Kings, etc. After midnight is now in a permanent way, since God gave it on Mount Sinai, like it says in the Zohar. It says matzah, the kadma, ubatar mitzvah. It says the matzah, which is previous and which is after, is the mitzvah. It's the same mitzvah with the vav, with the so there it says matz. Nimsa, so comes out that this level of matz mitz, that the matzahs that we eat now, this is the level of the matzah, the second matzah that we eat. That this is the matzot full of vav. So it ends up that the commandment to eat matzah before midnight was different than the commandment to eat matzah that we do now. When God took the Jews out of Egypt, he gave them the commandment to eat matzah, but that was before the Torah was given. And before the Torah was given, the heavens were separate and the earth was separate. And just temporarily, God revealed himself. But after the Torah was given, so when we do a commandment, we reveal God permanently in the world. Good, it's not as dramatic as it was back then. But it's more permanent and real now. We just have to believe that it's happening. Because by means of doing the Torah and the commandments is drawn down what's called the 200 and the 620 pillars of light of Keter Elyon. It's called the Keter, the crown of God. That was what was revealed on Mount Sinai. 613 commandments and 7 commandments of the rabbis were also revealed there. And that's the numerical value of Keter. God revealed his crown, his upper will. That was the same thing that was revealed temporarily to the Jews in Egypt and took them out of Egypt. That was what smote the firstborn, etc. Look, and therefore, that was what was written, was revealed to the Jews at midnight, which that's the time of the propitious time, is drawn down to us now by the matzah that we eat before midnight. Namely, the matzah that we have now, which was given by Torah and the commandments, which they themselves are the upper will of God, which was revealed to the Jews to take them out of Egypt. But now we have it in a permanent way. So the Torah, so to speak, is God. The Torah is a picture, if you want to call it, of God, but it's even more. The Torah is the limbs and the will and the wisdom of God himself. Not what he gave back then, what is right now. That's what the Torah is. That's why it says in the Haggadah, matzah, this matzah that we eat, is because of why, mishum ma, why do we eat it? It says, why do we eat it? And then it continues what we've just been learning. Because God revealed himself to the Jewish people. When we were in Egypt. When we're in Egypt. Then we were in exile, and the Klippa, and the Sitrach, the forces of evil, and the forces of selfishness were very, very powerful. And the Jewish people were very, very low. They were very weak. They didn't have Torah. They didn't have commandments. So then, back then, when the Jews were still prisoners and they didn't have the Torah yet, then they were commanded to eat matzah before midnight. That's matzah, what it says in the Torah, matzah missing the letter vav, matzot. The letter Vav indicates a revelation from above to below. Why do they? In order that there could be this as a preparation, that by means of it, they could receive afterwards the big revelation that we had before. So they ate the matzah, and that connected them to God temporarily, so that they were able to receive the big revelation that would take them out of Egypt. That was back then before Mount Sinai, but not so now. Now God already did take us out of Egypt back then. And he already revealed himself back then. And he revealed himself even more permanently when he gave the Torah. Now we have the Torah and we have the commandments. Now all the commandments, they are the commandments of the king. And when we do them, we are doing what it says, put on yourself a king. Accept on yourself a king. Who's the king? Is God. That this is what's called the lower fear of God, at least. You can see it happening nowadays, especially in Israel. I don't know how it is in the rest of the world because I'm not in the rest of the world. But in Israel, we see there's massive numbers of Jews now that are putting on tefillin every day. They're putting on tefillin every day, non-religious Jews. Non-religious Jews. It could be they don't do anything else, but they religiously put on tefillin, but they don't do it religiously. They do it Jewishly. They do it because they're Jews, and the Jew wants to do what God says. So they put on tefillin every day. They don't do it for good luck. They don't do it to prevent themselves, to protect themselves from the evil eye or something. They do it only because God says to do. I'm a Jew. A Jew I want to express my Judaism. How do you express your Judaism? You put on tefillin. Put on tefillin. How do I know this? Like I said before, every day I go to a nearby public place and I ask people to put on tefillin. I go for 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, I'm sorry. I ask people to put on tefillin. And there's Jews, they don't look, they have no sign that they have all tattoos on their arms and ears and earrings, and they have no kippah, they don't have a shirt, whatever it is. I put on every day. I put on tefillin every day, right? Jews that don't want to put on tefillin, they don't make excuses. At least Israelis, they don't make excuses, right? They don't, right? They don't say, I already put on today. Very rare, let's put it that way. Nowadays, especially. If they don't want to put on the tefillin, they say no. That's all. They say no. Some of them say no with a little wince. Some people say with a smile. But you see Jews putting on tefillin like every day. I go there for a half an hour. There puts on 10 people, sometimes 15. It's incredible. Oh, people run up to me, right? I want to put on tefillin. Non-religious Jews, you see, they have no sign. And that's because of after the Torah was given, so godliness was revealed in the world, and godliness and Jewishness are the same thing. If so, so why today do we have to eat matzah before midnight? If the matzah we eat is the same thing as what they ate after midnight, so let us just eat it in the Passover whenever. Why do we have to be specially careful to eat it before midnight? Why? Mishani, the answer is because the dough of our forefathers did not rise up. What does it mean? That we eat matzah now, even though that we eat it before midnight, and we're supposed to try as much as possible to eat it before midnight. You have to try to eat the matzah before. If you didn't, then you can eat it afterwards, but you're not supposed to. Why? Nevertheless, in the reason that we eat matzah now is not only from this level of the first matzah alone, but there's also drawn the second level of matzah, which is total surrender to God. There's another question which is asked in a lot of discourses of Hasidut. It says that we have to talk about going out of Egypt. Every day you're supposed to talk about it, and especially once a year. It's a special commandment. And it says even when the Mashiach comes. Even when Mashiach comes, we'll have to remember going out of Egypt. And it always says when Mashiach comes, there won't be any problems whatsoever, right? It's like a person always reminding, oh, I was so sick. I used to be so sick. I'm hungry. The person was hungry, right? He gets hungry. He says, oh, yeah, I'm so hungry. I was so hungry. And somebody gives him something to eat, right? I'm hungry. I need to eat. Someone gives him something to eat. And then he starts saying, oh, yeah, I was so hungry. I was so hungry. He complains the whole rest of his life about how hungry he was. Oh, I hungry. It was 45 years ago. I'll never forget it. I was so hungry. Stop, Grandpa. Stop telling that story already. His wife says he's been telling it for 45 years. It doesn't stop. Oh, he was hungry that day. It was so terrible. It was hungry. Enough. The same thing the Jewish people say. Oh, we were in Egypt. It was so terrible. It was so bad. It was so awful. Okay, enough. We left Egypt. We left Egypt 3,330, 8 years ago. We left Egypt. Eight, now it's, I guess, 9 years ago. We left Egypt, right? Enough. No, every year we have to mention it. Why? Why do we have to mention everything? It says because leaving Egypt was against our will. We had to force ourselves. We had to force ourselves to take the sheep into the house. The sheep was the idolatry of the Egyptians. The Jewish people, despite all the miracles, they were afraid. And they ignored their own fear. And they did what God said. They forced themselves to do what God said. And they forced themselves not to listen to their own intuitions and their own urges and their own forcing themselves. And that's why we have to mention it all the time. Why? Because we always have to force ourselves to do more and more and more good, never to be satisfied with where we are. That's represented by the first matzah. So it says, therefore, now the matzah that we eat now has two things in it. First of all, the big revelation that was after midnight, which eventually led to giving Torah and commandments, which that revelation is now accessible all the time. And also, it has the thing of forcing ourselves to do what God wants, to go more higher, never to be satisfied with our present spiritual situation. Matzah. The second level of matzah, this is a tremendous automatic fear of God, right? Like I said, like in America, you automatically drive on the right side of the road. Automatically, well, Jews automatically do what God wants because they realize it's the right thing to do. It wasn't decided arbitrarily, like in America, and which side of the road to drive on. Got to drive on some side, right? So they decide, right? Here, Torah and the commandments, you don't have to do any commandments. Who says you have to do commandments? Right? I guess in America also you don't have to buy a car also, but but you don't have to do commandments if you don't want to. God says you have to do this. Why should you do the commandments? It says two reasons. First of all, because you intuitively you feel they're correct and you force yourself, and also automatically you feel that this is God. God is creating me. He wants me to do the commandments. So there was a big revelation of godliness. The King of Kings and revealed himself and took the Jews out of Egypt. above any sort of connection to the world. The Hishtalshelus means all the world, even the spiritual worlds. That this revelation of godliness is in the matzah we eat now also, for the reason we said before. How can there be hinted at two levels of matzah? The level of matzah where we have to force ourselves to serve God, and the level of matzah where we automatically serve and feel God. How can in one matzah? So the answer is that the difference between chametz and matzah, the word chametz and matzah, is one letter, chet, hey, and chet and hey. Here, chametz has chet, mem tzadik, and matzah has hey, mem tzadik. Here the chet comes in the beginning, it comes in the end, but it's still the letters are exactly the same. Both have mem tzadik, but chometz has a chet and a hey, and matzah has a hey. And the difference between matzah and chometz, by the way, is also not very big. They're exactly the same shape. Chet is 3 lines, hey is 3 lines, but matzah, there's a little space over here, see? Little space in the top. And chometz, it's all closed up. So it shows that chometz is pure egotism. You only think about yourself. And hey has a little opening that you can think about others, you can think about God. Matzah. Okay, now matzah, the only difference between chametz and matzah is the letter hey. Now the letter hey, there's what's called milui. In Hebrew, in Kabbalah especially, they fill the letters. And when you fill up the letters, what does it mean fill it up? You spell the letter phonetically, how the letter is pronounced. So according to how it's pronounced, that changes the numerical value of the letter. If you remember, we learned about the 4 names of God, which are 72 and 63 and 45 and 52. You ever remember that letter? 72 is Ab, 63 is Sag, 45 is Ma, and 52 is Ban. Each one of these different, and these all go according to how you fill the letters of God's name. God's name is a Yud, and then there's a Hey. So Yud, for instance, is Yud, Vav, Daled. So Yud alone is 10. But if you fill it out, Yud, it comes 20. Vav and Daled is another 10. Then the letter Hey can be filled three ways. Either Hey Aleph, which means the numerical value of Hey is 6. Hey, which means the numerical value becomes 10. Or Hey Yud is 15. So Hey can be filled up with Hey, two ways. So if so, the word Matza has in it really one Hey, but that Hey is another Hey concealed inside of it. That's the Milui, is also letter Hey. Therefore, it's called Machpelah. The letter Hey is also called Marta Machpelah. We learn about this in Parshas Chayei Sorah, Marata Machpelah, where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are buried. It's called the double cave. Double cave, Machpelah, it's called doubled. The letter Hey is doubled. These two Heys in the word matzah hint at the one Hey of matzah. In this one letter Hey of matzah, there's two levels. There's two levels of matzah. The first level of matzah where we have to force ourselves to do what God wants and force ourselves to refrain from what God prohibits. That's the first level, forcing yourself. In Hebrew, it's called etkafia or eskafia, forcing yourself. And the second level is automatically feeling God, feeling the reality of what's real, what's true. That's called eshapcha. You transform yourself. Milui, because the filling of a letter, this is what's concealed inside of it, inside of the letter Hey. And what's inside of it, that's the level of malchut. Hey is the last letter of God's name, and the source comes from what's crown. It says the beginning is stuck in the end, and the end is stuck in the beginning. So the highest aspect of God's personality is called the crown, and the lowest aspect, that's what's called God's kingship. How the crown expresses itself in the world. It says that's expressed by the two letters of Hey, which are in matzah. There's only one letter Hey, but that one letter contains in it two. So it says that's the lower fear of God and the upper fear of God. And that's both contained in the matzah that we eat now. Now, as I said before, this requires faith. You have to have faith that all this is true. You have to have faith that God exists. You have to have faith that God took the Jews out of Egypt. Right? But that faith enables us to go out of ourselves. Our own intellect sometimes becomes our prison. That becomes our Egypt. That is called, in the language of normal English, selfishness. We can't think of anything bigger than ourselves. And going out of Egypt means going out of this selfishness, going out of your self-made prison of your own mind. You attach yourself to something more meaningful and more real than yourself. As Professor Viktor Frankl said, the door to meaning opens outward. Go out of yourself. And then we're talking about the ultimate going out of yourself is Mashiach. Mashiach will take all of the Jews, they'll take the Egypt out of the Jews. The Jews themselves will go out of their own self-made Egypt, your own thoughts, your own desires, your own, will, and your own urges. You'll be able to go out of that, first of all, by forcing yourself to do so, because you know God, that's the lower matzah, that's the first matzah, and then really feeling the godliness and actually enjoying doing what God wants. That's the idea of eating matzah, as we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. Now let's